Hey, good morning, guys. Welcome back to my garden. My name is Kiera. If you're new here, feel free to call me Q. But this weekend is Memorial Day weekend, which marks the 1 year anniversary of us moving into this house. And so, what I want to do for the garden tour today, which I thought would be really fun, is as we do the tour, I also want to just go around and tell you about what's changed. So, we've made quite a few. Quite a few additions to this backyard since we moved in, and we've done a ton of work in the last year on just projects in this backyard. And so I want to go over those, and then we also just have a ton more plans. And so I thought it'd be fun to just do a tour mixed in with our 1 year mark of being here. So let's start in our main spot with the blackberry bushes. One thing I forgot to mention is as I go around with this tour and I'm showing you kind of like what changes we made and all of that kind of stuff, if I have pictures, I'm gonna try to insert those into the video so that you can get a look at really the growth and the changes here. I don't have pictures of everything, but I do have a couple, so I'm gonna see what I can put in to give you kind of like before and afters. But anyway, behind me, we have our Blackberry Hedge, which is really growing really well. It's, I want to say 12, maybe 14 feet long. It goes kind of the length of our patio here. So you can see all behind me. And these were already here when we moved here. They were just out into the walkway a fair amount. They were growing wild and crazy, and we got blackberries off of them in our very first year here, and it was really awesome. They're really good, so we're excited to have these again, especially since we moved in, did no work on them, and then we got blackberries for the first time, which is awesome. So the main difference that we did here is we trellised these up with wire. So I'll bring you in here so you can see. So we put tension wire on all of these blackberries here, and it goes all the way down to the ground. You see more wire here. The previous owners, they did have these trellised, and they had little eye hooks here already, but they had trellised them with string, and these plants are massive, and so they quickly just broke all the string. So the string was essentially just not doing anything by the time we moved in. It was just hanging out, and basically the blackberries were living wherever they wanted to. And so what we did this fall is my husband Andrew came in and pruned all of these so that we could get new growth on them. And it was the first time we pruned them. We had never done it before. We weren't sure if we were doing it right. And so we didn't make any content about that or anything like that or make a video. But this year, I'm going to see if I can get video of how we pruned them, because I think we did a pretty good job. But anyway, in the fall we pruned them, and then in the spring, when the plants were starting to kind of leaf out, but they hadn't gotten this big yet, we put wire in to all of these eye hooks, and then we've just been kind of weaving, you can see here, as the plants grow out. So there's a stalk here that's outside of the, there's a wire down here, and it's outside of that wire, but then it kept growing, so we were able to tuck it into the wire back there. So that's just been kind of our method to keep it a little bit contained. I really love having this green wall back here, especially when we have parties and stuff like that. It's really just a really pretty background. It's going to be really great when we have parties here and the blackberries are actually fruiting, and so people can just pick off blackberries as they are enjoying the patio, which is really nice. But yeah, I'm really happy with these, and this was one of those things that I loved, that the previous owners thought to put these here because they're fantastic, and we've already reaped the benefits from really awesome blackberries. In the future, I do want to also make jam and stuff like that. I don't think we have enough right now for us to, even if we froze all of them and didn't eat any, I don't think we have enough to make jam from these or jelly. But we're probably going to try to forage some blackberries maybe this year. We'll see. Our summer is going to be a little hectic. But we also have little plants that are coming in on the end here. Over here, we have a ton of plants that are rooting in the ground here on the end. And so we're gonna probably dig some of these up and kind of just extend the hedge on both sides so that we're going to get more and more blackberries as this thing is wanting to propagate itself anyway. So that's really awesome too. So here's just a quick report on the green stalks. Obviously this came with us. This is our first time using green stalks. But what I did that's new here is I put a bunch of violas that were left over from a party we had. I just kind of put them in here in some of the gaps on this cold weather green stalk in the meantime before I plant it with something else. So you can see everything in here is bolted and all that kind of stuff. But I'm slowly just like replacing things in here, and I really like how the flowers look. They add a really nice touch in here. So I'm definitely going to add more flowers in the future. In this green stalk we have strawberries. So these are the strawberries. While I mentioned in previous videos that while it was raining, I forgot to water them because they're under a covered patio. And so they don't look good, but they're starting to make a comeback. I've been babying them a little bit more in the last couple weeks, and there's a lot of new green growth, and so they're trying. I'm going to come in here, and as they get more green, I'm going to prune off more and more of the brown stuff just to kind of give the green stuff a chance. But it's not done yet. It's not completely lost. So I feel really good about that. And I'm able to kind of revive these a little bit. This is an herb box that we put just on the side of the house here. So this box was here when we moved in, but it was down the hill and there was nothing in it. We put all of these different herbs in it. When we moved it up here, there was actually 2 of them, and one was, the wood was all rotted. So we were able to salvage this one. But when we got here, it was down at the bottom of the hill and it was just covered in weeds. And then in these buckets, these are our buckets that we brought with us from our old garden. And we put potatoes in these, and we are getting new potato sprouts, which is really exciting. So these we planted, I want to say 2 or maybe 3 weeks ago. And there's more right here. That's a volunteer from, I want to say last year. We have another one right here that is new. And then this one was a volunteer also. And we're still waiting to see if something comes up in the other ones, but this is pretty great because these were potatoes that were just, sprouting in our house, and we just decided to plant them rather than throw them out. And there's not much to see in this bed here. It's kind of overgrown, but we like it that way, and so we've just kind of let it do its thing. And this is massive sage plant, which is really lovely. Behind me here we have our apricot tree and a peach tree. These obviously came with the house. They were very established trees by the time we got here, and last year we did get fruit on the apricot, which was really awesome. It was okay. Well, it was pretty good. It was pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of apricots, and so they didn't wow me, but the trees also weren't really cared for in the time where the old previous owners were moving out and we were moving in. So we think that that might have had something to do with it too, is just the flavor, but they were still pretty good. This year, we don't really have fruit on them at all, and so we're trying to figure that out. We also have an aphid infestation, and right now we're using it as a ladybug breeding ground because there's a ton of ladybugs on it, and we're happy with that. The tree is still overall healthy, so we're letting it do its thing. This peach tree, you can see we've thinned it. We've done a couple big thinnings of the fruit on here, and it's still loaded. And as the fruit gets bigger, the branches have come down, and so we're able to reach more and more and more of it. And so it's kind of a continuous thinning process. This tree got a leaf curl early this spring, which was really sad. It was beautiful and majestic. Its flowers were really pretty. The leaves were really beautiful when they came in, and then they started to die off. So we're waiting for the fall and winter to be able to treat this tree, but it's still covered in fruit. So we're hoping that the fruit still tastes good this year. The fruit is also blushing. I'll move in closer so you can actually see. So the fruit in here is blushing, and it is still getting bigger. I wasn't sure if when it started blushing it would stop growing, but it is still getting bigger. And like I said, we're still pruning things out and stuff like that. So we're hoping to get a pretty good peach harvest. I don't know if they're going to be any good this year. They were really good last year, but this is all just kind of an experiment to see what we can get off of this tree, and then until we can basically bring it back to health. Up next, we have our Grape Arch. Let me move out of the way so you can see the whole thing. So we built a arch. This is a 16-foot cattle panel that we put in here. There's 2 grape plants on this side. These were already here. They came with the house, and they were on this really itty bitty little arch trellis that went that way. It was teeny tiny, and the grapes were essentially just growing all the way past the trees and then all the way down the hill. And so this year what we decided to do is we decided to try and put this arch up because we wanted something that you could like walk under. Maybe we could put a bench under, something like that, and we really love it. And then on the other side, on this side, this is a grape plant that we brought with us. We had it in a pot, and it's just been super happy since we put it here. So let me move in closer so that you can see how these are doing, because they're covered in grapes. So this is the Grape Arch up close. It's still, even with this huge panel, it's still pretty wild and crazy, and we kind of love that about it. But there's tons of clusters of grapes in here. They are getting bigger, so you can actually see the little baby grapes now, which is exciting. But this thing is just loaded up, and it was loaded up last year too, but these plants have definitely gotten bigger. And you can see all up here into the canopy. The whole thing is just, there's grapes everywhere. So this was another thing that came with the house. The plants were really mature, and we were able to just move in and then just start getting grapes, and it was wonderful, especially since we had a grape plant that we had been trying to learn to take care of in a pot, and it just was not working for us. We did basically everything wrong. We had no idea how to take care of this thing, and it suffered. And so it was amazing to be able to just move into this new house and get grapes. Like, it was really exciting, and they're really good. And it got to the point where at a certain point we couldn't eat anymore. We were all graped out after months and months of table grapes. And so this year what I plan to do is I really want to make grape jelly. I don't know if these are the type of grape that you make grape jelly with. I'm assuming it works with everything, but it's something I'm going to try and see if we like it. Because there's just no way that we can eat this many grapes, and even giving them away, it's a lot. And so I would love to be able to have another way just to preserve these. And here's the other side of the trellis. This is the grape that we brought with us and planted here a few months ago. Let me zoom out here so you can see a little bit. So I don't know if you can tell, but there's kind of a raised bed over here. It was lined with wood and everything. What we did is we actually took the wood out because we knew we didn't want a garden bed here. Some of the wood on this we were able to repurpose and build into different beds, and then the rest of it was just rotted out, so we ended up throwing it out. But our original plan was to smooth all of this out and just kind of like get rid of this bed. We never got around to doing that, and so what we've done this year is we just started planting stuff in it. And then there were other things that were already in this bed that they had planted before that we just decided to leave. These 3 lavender plants, for example, they were already in this bed when we moved here. You can really tell on this side where the edge was, and the whole thing's taken over with grass, and we're going to clean this up at some point. But for right now, this is just kind of how it's living. Right there, I had planted a black seedless watermelon that never came up, and so yesterday I went in and planted a large pumpkin variety. I think it's called a Howden. I might be saying that wrong. I'll put it on the screen, but I planted a Howden pumpkin there, so we'll see if that comes up. And then there was really nothing else in this bed. We also put I think it's a lemon thyme in the corner there. It's really small, you can't see it. Right there in the grass. And then this onion was already here, and then we planted an African daisy that we've had in a pot for many, many years. We planted that on the edge right here. And then this is a Meyer lemon tree that we planted here, so it's been really happy. I'm excited to see it grow. Next up, this is what we think is a navel orange tree. It was really sick when we moved in, and we've been trying to nurse it back to health, and I think it's working. The oranges are starting to get really big on this. Some of them are a really good size. So let's see, here's another one over here. It's a really good size. So they've been growing a lot in the last couple weeks, which is really exciting. And it'll be nice to get something off of this tree, hopefully, because there was nothing on it for all of last year, and then we randomly in the middle of winter found one navel orange on it, and besides that, it's just been really sickly. And then at the base of this tree, this is an oregano that I started from seed, I want to say 2-3 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, in our old garden, and it was huge. And so we cut part of it, brought it with us, and then decided to plant it under this tree. And it's a little dry right now and it's a little eaten up, but overall it's really happy here underneath this tree. And then this is a clementine that also came with the house, and the fruit was small on this last year, but it was still really good. And so we had a lot of fruit that came off of this, and so this tree has been really good. And then the biggest change that we made to the house is adding in all of this garden. So none of this was here when we moved in. Well, that stump was there. But the wood chips and all of the garden beds, all of the trellises we've put in the last couple years. In the very back of the garden, I put in this tomato trellis. We have a couple determinate varieties of Roma tomatoes, and then we have some indeterminate Super Sweet 100 cherry tomatoes, and then some Amish paste at the end. And everything here is doing really well. This is a marigold that hasn't been eaten by some miracle. And the tomatoes are all starting to get a lot bigger, which is great. This guy needs some help because he's fallen over and not yet to the trellis. But they're doing pretty well. This is a basil that's been eaten by birds. This flag is where I put another Howden pumpkin yesterday. So I'm going to see if that comes up. In the corner in this back bed here, we have a massive zucchini plant. And last week, I said in the tour, yeah, I think we'll get zucchini in probably like 2 weeks, maybe a little bit less. Let me show you something. Inside this plant, there's zucchini. And this one, I could actually take today. So this one I'll probably take either tonight or tomorrow morning. There's another one there. And, oh yeah, and there's another one right here. So this thing is already loaded up, which is really awesome. So we're getting zucchini a lot sooner than I even thought we were, which I love. This is going to be the first one of the year. Really quick, in the garden, you can see that there's a bunch of flags everywhere. So one thing I did get done this week was I was working on planting the gaps, essentially. And so what I did is I put orange flags everywhere that there was a gap in the garden that I wanted to put more seeds in. So a lot of it was on the empty trellises where things didn't come up, or trellises I just forgot to plant stuff on, or as we'll see on the other side of the garden, it was trellises where I had something, but those things are about ready to come out. And so I wanted something new to be kind of like sprouting in the meantime. And then there are a couple places where I have flags that are crisscross like this. And it's only a couple places. It's like, I want to say maybe 3 places. But these are the ones I didn't get to planting out yesterday. And so I created kind of X's with the flags so that I can remind myself, hey, there's nothing here yet. And I want there to be, essentially. So I can come back in maybe today, maybe tomorrow, and just slowly fill in those last few gaps. But the flags are here, one, so I knew where the gaps throughout the entire garden were and where I wanted to add more stuff, but also so that I can know where to spot water, because there are more gaps on the other side of the garden than there are on this side of the garden, because when everything was little on this side, because the beds were completely empty, it was really easy for me to come out here and just water everything. And then by the time we got to the other side, I got a little comfy with the drip irrigation being fully set up, and so I forgot to spot water. We also had like some rain and stuff like that, so I just was forgetting. And so now the flags are there as a reminder to me that, hey, there's a seed here that needs a little bit more water than just the, the watering that we do every other day. And so I'm going to keep those flags in those spots until something comes up. And then it'll also later be a reminder to me of, hey, you planted something here and it didn't come up. And so I can decide to either replant that thing or plant something else. So that's what the flags are. And you'll see those throughout the tour today, but it's just so you know. So here we are back to the giant zucchini that is already producing food, which is amazing. And I'm so excited about that. Here on the edge of it, I think this is a massive dahlia. I'm not quite sure. I'm pretty sure that this is a dahlia. There's also a pepper back here that I need to clip some leaves of other plants around it just because it's getting crowding out. So like right here, there's a pepper there, and I just want to give it a little more space. So I'm probably going to clip some of these, like this leaf right here or this branch right here, so that that pepper has a chance. There's an okra here that's doing really well. And as long as this isn't completely shaded out, I'm not too worried about it, because this okra is going to get massive. There's one of those X's I was talking about. So this is going to be a reminder to me that I can plant some more stuff here, which will be great. Oh, I wanted to show you this. This is an okra plant that I think the birds have demolished. I've never had this problem before. Here's another okra plant the birds have just kind of destroyed. I look on these, I don't see any caterpillars, I don't see anything else, but what I do see is birds on these plants in the morning. And so I think they're down here slowly just, eating them. Maybe they're picking bugs off of them and pulling the plants at the same time, but I think they're just eating the plants at this point. That's one thing that is really strange to me with this garden, because, and it's also a reason why I love gardening, because there's always something different. There's always a new challenge and there's new lessons to learn. Year to year, there's always changes. There's always something new going on. But now that we're in a new location, even though we're not that far from where we used to live before, we have completely different, what you would call pest pressure. And I never thought that birds would be a pest. So that's interesting to me. But they're eating all the stuff that I'm not used to anything touching. So like my basil, my okra, my marigolds, they're destroying all of them. The sunflowers, we had a couple goldfinches that would pick at the sunflowers at our old house, but we have way more here. And so they're just demolishing things. And it's the weirdest thing, because it's the stuff that I'm used to being my tried and trues. My zinnias, for instance, they're tearing apart my zinnias. And I'm surprised by it. It is frustrating because, I'm really sad when they completely kill the plants. For things like them, like picking at the leaves a little bit, I don't care. I don't mind at all. It's just, the leaves aren't as pretty. That's not a big deal to me. But it's when they completely demolish a plant is really sad to me. And so I need to figure out what I'm going to do about it. I know there are things like, there's like crinkle or like tinsel paper that you can get that's shiny, that sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. I've literally seen birds like right on top of those things, but I might try them anyway. There's, the old like CDs, getting CDs and hanging them up. And then there's pie pans, so that there's the noise involved also. Pie pans for me is going to be a last resort, just because I don't want the noise. And so, but I've seen people successfully use pie pans and things like that to deter birds and squirrels and like all that kind of stuff, because it scares them. But I don't really want that in my garden experience. So if you have any suggestions on what to do, let me know. I think I might also look into seeing if I can get some like cheap like mesh cages, maybe some like cheap mesh trash cans from like the dollar store or something like that, and just covering some of these plants that are smaller just so that they get a fighting chance, because they're just getting destroyed so fast. Anyway, yeah, I never thought birds would be a pest, but here they are. So I'm learning to roll with the punches of that, and it's a new thing to figure out. And I don't want to completely deter having birds in my garden. I actually really love having birds in my garden. I love having all the things in my garden, but uh, this is a little much. Like they're enjoying themselves a little too much for me, and so I need to figure out a way where both of us can live happily together in this garden. And down here at the end of the garden, here's an okra that, you know, it's not great on some of the leaves, but it's not completely destroyed yet, so it still has a fighting chance. I'm hoping that it just grows faster than the birds can eat all of it. So I don't know, we'll see. But I haven't seen any worms or anything else. It just looks like birds pecking at it. Here I put an X, not because I want to actually plant anything here, but just because there's a lot of stuff growing right in this spot. And honestly, I don't remember planting everything this close together. So these look like dahlias to me, or maybe eggplants. Oh yeah, there's an eggplant right there. These look like dahlias to me, but I don't remember putting them here. And this is something I don't remember that I would do, because these are entirely too close together. So this might even just be a weed of some sort. It's a very beautiful, convincing weed. I don't know. I'll have to look back in my videos and see what I did. But I want to move some of this stuff here because there's just too much stuff in one spot. You can see there's another pepper plant here that's getting pushed over by the zucchini. And so part of this is going to be trimming this zucchini's bottom leaves a little bit until it can kind of create a canopy. There's just too much going on in this one little corner, and so I put an X here so that I can remember to move some of this stuff. Yeah, here's a marigold that has seen better days. It's really sad. It's all of the sunshine orange marigolds that I planted look like this. I don't think there's a single one that the birds haven't completely demolished, but it's still trying. And then in this zucchini plant, it's a little bit behind the other one, but there's still fruit here. So that'll be ready in probably a few days. They grow really fast once they start going. Here's an amaranth that is beautiful. It's about 3 feet tall now. And, well, actually, maybe it's 4 feet tall. Let's see. So I'm 5'5.5", and this amaranth is chest level to me. So it's pretty tall. And this is exactly what I wanted. I wanted it to frame the side of this trellis, so I'm really happy about this. The other thing that's new this week is pretty much everything that is vining or climbing on this side of the garden is starting to put out tendrils. And so I've been weaving them through the cattle panels pretty much every morning and evening because they're growing so fast, but things are looking good. These are 2 cucumbers. This is an Armenian cucumber that does really well in hot climates. Then this is a Telegraph Improved cucumber, which hasn't done well for us in the past, but I still want to try it in a new garden. This is bugs. That's not birds, that's bugs. But this is a Senora zinnia, and it's the first one to pop up. Or no, it's a Moulin Rouge zinnia. And it's still really small in here, but these blooms will get like as big as my hand. So I'm really excited to see that here in the garden. Over here, where we had our tester peas, those are going to come out really soon here. And so we planted more stuff down at the bottom. And I put a sugar pie pumpkin here, which is a small pumpkin that we can use for decorating and then make pumpkin pie out of. And then over here, Andrew put a butternut squash seed. There's also a butternut squash seed on this side of our tester peas. And then this one is probably also another pumpkin. Where's the... Oh yeah. So this is another sugar pie pumpkin seed over here. in between the trellises where I put flowers so that I wouldn't have to worry about harvesting anything necessarily. The straw flowers are doing really well. They're getting big, which is really nice. I've never grown these before, and so I'm not really sure how big they get before they flower, but I've seen them in people's flower gardens on YouTube. I've never seen them in person though. So I'm excited to feel those and hear the kind of like crunchiness that gives them their straw flower name. And then over here, opening, this is a Senora Zinnia. I've never grown this variety before, but it's supposed to be kind of the same thing as the Moulin Rouge, where it puts off those really big, impressive flowers. So I'm excited for this one. And my idea here was to have things that were climbing up the trellis on both sides and then just have flowers popping out, like zinnias popping out in between the walkways. So I'm happy with what that's doing so far. And then once this trellis is full, I think it's going to be really pretty because this plant has gotten a good fighting chance to start flowering before it's completely taken over by these big vining things. And then this guy, it's going up pretty far. So I'm really happy about that. I think this one is another Armenian cucumber. Yeah, I can see the tag down there. So that's an Armenian cucumber, which is really exciting. This one is a, Persian gherkin. And it's also one that I'm trying again from previous gardening years. It's probably way too late, but we have had a little bit of more milder weather this May, so these things have taken off. This is a junior yellow sunflower that is spindly. They do get thicker than this, and the blooms get bigger, but I'm still happy with it. So it's slowly surviving the birds. And I'm going to come out here and prune these and see if we can get a couple more blooms on it, but I love that it has multiple heads. Here we have some peppers that are doing pretty well. This one is labeled, it's an Italian pepper. That one is either Italian or Ajvarski. This one here is a habanada. This one's probably a habanada also. This is another one of those sunshine orange marigolds that the birds have been snacking on. And over here we have a sunflower in the middle, some chamomile that smells lovely, another amaranth that is framing a trellis. I think I'm going to tie this guy up because I keep propping him on this side and he keeps going to the other side. But I think I'm just going to tie him to that trellis so that it's more stable. Here are noodle beans, and they have been putting off tendrils and doing really well. So I'm excited for these to start really climbing. They take a while to get going, I found. But once they do, I'm hoping that they will quickly cover this trellis. Over here, we planted a butternut squash early in the season. It was an old seed, so it never came up. So we replanted that yesterday. Here's a autumn beauty sunflower that is looking very, very good. And I think this is one of the ones that I just put the seed in the ground. Here's a dahlia that the birds have gotten to. This is nuts to me. It's so picked apart, but it's trying to flower. This thing is really fighting for it, but this is just, it's so sad. Over here we have Blue Lake pole beans. They've really gotten going. They're climbing like crazy, and I've just been tucking all the tendrils back on here so that they can find their way. But I really like how this filled out. And then over here, I'm not sure what this is. Let's find out. Let's see. Where's the tag? No tag? No, I think this is a honey nut. I don't see the tag, but I'm pretty sure this is a honey nut. And it's doing really well, too. And then there's another amaranth on the end, keeping it company. And then in this front bed, we have a yellow squash in the front there that it's not quite putting off fruit yet, but it has female flowers that are ready to open. So it won't be too far along here. So that's exciting. There's some chamomile right there in the corner. Over here, I think is a honey nut. This one I can see the tag. Let's see. But I should probably move the tag because, yeah, that's honey nut. It's eating it. And then there's more Blue Lake pole beans. These are smaller, but they're still doing really well. Over here, we have another yellow squash with some sweet alyssum that I companion planted with it. And this is exactly what I wanted. And it looks like it's crowding it out, but it's really not, because the thing about sweet alyssum is it grows really shallow roots, like kind of right at this under the surface of the soil. And it's a really great companion plant because it covers and spreads like crazy, but it doesn't really compete with the root systems of other plants. So it kind of just grows around everything. It's actually really easy to pull up, which I love too. It's supposed to be a really good habitat for beneficials like ladybugs, which is why I put it underneath all of the squash that we have here, because usually we get, in our old garden, we would get really bad aphids that would completely demolish all of our zucchini. And so I planted all of this underneath here to just kind of allow multiple things to grow together. But I actually do really like how it looks. I like that it, grows a couple inches up off the ground, or a couple inches out of the bed. Sometimes it'll even spill out of the bed, which I really like that too. I really love the like soft little delicate white flowers and the overall look of it. You do, when you are planting something else, you do have to kind of like rip it out to make room for something else. And just make sure that if you're putting in a seed, make sure that place stays pretty uncovered so that the sweet alyssum doesn't grow back in and then completely shade out whatever seed you put in. But besides that, I really like it. I just think it's delicate, it's pretty, and it just adds another layer to the garden. That's that. Let's see if this one, this one has fruit this one has a flower that's open. Oh, that's really spiky. Yeah, this one has a flower that's open, so we'll probably get a yellow squash within the next week here. And there's another little one coming up over there, so I'm really happy about that. And there's another amaranth. Right here, we planted another butternut squash seed. And then these are noodle beans. They're not as thick as the other ones, but that's okay. I've been tucking these to the trellis also, because they're finally big enough to do that. Here I have a blank spot. I'm probably going to put either flowers or bush beans right here. And then this is a pepper that is just too far away from both of these watering things. So I also put this flag here, so I remember to move that probably closer to here. I might put it right there. But the rest of these peppers are looking really good. Got another blank spot right there. Have a marigold that's slowly getting eaten, but this one has had a good run compared to the others. And then these are all of our jalapeno peppers and poblano peppers down here with the sunflower. And that's the end of the bed. In the middle here, we have our 3 beds that are the cut flower garden. Andrew came out here the other day and pulled a ton of grass for me, which is really awesome because it's just taken over. I did get the tomatoes trellised, and I have a video coming up on those. I just need to finish editing it, but that'll be coming probably in the next couple weeks here. And one of the cool things is these cosmos that have been looking pretty ratty. I need to come in and take like these old ones off, but they're starting to get bigger, which is really exciting. And you can really see it on the ones up there. So this is kind of what all the cosmos looked like in the beginning. And I was like, yeah, these are not lovely, like everyone else's. But I'm starting to get ones that look like this, which is really nice. And that's more of what I wanted. So these 2 plants right here are doing really well. And I got a zinnia. This is actually, I don't know which one it is. I think this is the purple giant. Yeah, this is a giant purple zinnia. This is the first one I've gotten. I've never grown this before. She's pretty. I love that. Excited for more of those. And then here we have These are golden nugget tomatoes, and they're starting to put off fruit. So we got little tomatoes here. You can see right here, right here. So these plants are doing pretty well. I think I need to tighten the Florida weave that I did on these because they're flopping over still. But overall, these plants are doing pretty well. And then this bed, this is the third cut flower bed. It's the most eaten, but stuff is starting to come through. So we have a couple snapdragons that came up, which I've never grown snapdragons before. That one's really pretty. That guy, I love that. I've never grown these before, and it looks like we're about to get a lot of blooms, which I'm really excited about, because this is the bed where on the end here everything's been eaten. So I had basils here, all of them are done or gone. I don't know what happened to them. These were all dahlias that were eaten partially, and then I had an entire row of sunshine orange marigolds here, and they've all got eaten. Let's see here, they're all completely dead. So I haven't decided if I'm going to come out here and plant something else or what. I've just been taking it one project at a time. All right, and now we are at our last three 16-foot beds. So these got planted out, I want to say a week and a half later than the ones on the other side because we had stuff growing here. So everything over here is smaller, but it's still looking pretty good. The changes that we did here, got a couple flags. You can see these peppers are doing all right. This is a tomatillo, which it's flowering, which is great, but that's the other tomatillo and it's not flowering yet. So this one I think is going to be flowering for a while and not doing anything because there's no second one yet to help it cross-pollinate. So we'll see what happens with that. But over here, between these two flags, this one and that one, I planted a couple rows of bush beans. So I put some here and put some here, and I did just kind of like a trio mix. So they're going to be green, yellow, and purple coming out of here. This is some more of our tomatoes that we trellised, and they're really doing well. I don't see any fruit on these yet, but we are starting to get flowers, so won't be too long now. And then here's a marigold that is surviving, but I think it's a regular marigold. We have a Armenian cucumber that I transplanted, so I expect it to grow a little bit slower, but it's doing really well. And then I put another sugar pie pumpkin seed over here with that flag. And then down here we put just more pole beans because we figured it'd be nice to have more pole beans to freeze and stuff like that. So we just pole beans on the beginning of this trellis, so we just continued it on to have more for that whole trellis. And there is a Senora zinnia behind it trying to flower, trying so hard to flower. Back to this trellis, I have a flag here. This one is noodle beans. These all came up, but there was one that got eaten here. And so I put a flag here just so that I remembered that I put an extra seed here because I wanted that to come up and fill this gap. And then over here, what did I do? Oh, I put more pole beans on this side too. So this has a little flag here. So this is all going to be pole beans. And then here is that sugar pie pumpkin that was right here. And this is a honey nut. Yeah, there's a honey nut seed here. And I'm completely out of honey nut seeds now, so I really hope this one comes up. So I have to remember to water it. Here are our two farmers market tomatoes. This is a Hungarian heart, and that one is a yellow brandywine. They're doing really well, and they've also been trellised here. So this one, it had one good leader, so I just had the one string, but this one, it had already grown 2 leaders. So I wanted to just experiment with that, so I actually tied up 2. And then it has its little marigold friend in the middle there. And what I'm going to do is probably, as we take out those peas, I'm probably going to get these closer to this panel so that they can grow more up the arch trellis than anything. We got eggplants here that are starting to slowly get a little bit bigger. Peppers back here are doing really well too. this is a honey nut that did come up, which is great. So, and it's starting to tendril here, so pretty soon it'll be climbing. And over here is a watermelon that is doing really well. This is a yellow watermelon that is from a seed I saved from our old garden. And there's a hole there because I actually planted 2 here and I transplanted 1, and we're going to see how it's surviving. And then down here we just have another zucchini. There's some Thai basil. This is a cosmos, and we have a marigold on the end with some more sweet alyssum mixed in. All right, and then in this front bed, so between these 2 flags all the way to where the trellis is, we put in bush beans in between these peppers. This is where we had carrots a couple weeks ago, and so Andrew put in bush beans all through here. So excited for those. This is a yellow watermelon that is looking fairly happy, all things considered. It's just slowly growing. Oh, here's the one. This is the one that I transplanted yesterday, and it looks like it might make it. So that's really awesome. Over here, we have more garlic that is, basically ready to come out. We had a friend over the other day, and we let them pull a garlic out for us, and it was really big and looked great. So the rest of this is going to come out pretty soon here. Oh yeah, because this one is starting to split. Yeah, this one has to come out for sure. Over here, this is where these peas were. This was our best producing pea spot for snap peas, but it was completely taking over these tomatoes that I had interplanted underneath them. And so what I did here is because it was completely covering this tomato, I just took all the plants out and just cut them all down at the ground level, left the roots in, and took out some of the yellowing ones. And now you can see the rest of it is also starting to yellow, and it's starting to slow down. And so I'm going to take the rest of this out very, very soon here. And then what I did is I temporarily trellised these tomatoes, these 3 tomatoes, up on the string. But I think what I want to do once I take these pea plants out is I'm actually going to, as these grow, push them all the way back to this trellis and see if I can get these to just grow up the arch. I've seen one person successfully do a tomato arch, and I thought it was kind of cool. So I don't see why it wouldn't work. I can see how it'd get a little unruly at the top to get them trained to actually grow in an arch instead of just straight up. But I'm okay with that. So I think that's what I'm going to do with these 3, just because they're so little still. The ones behind me, the ones that I got from the farmer's market that are bigger, I'm going to see if I can slowly get them closer to the arch. But if I can't get them to actually grow within it, I'm okay with that, just because those are bigger plants. But I think these, I have a lot more room for kind of manipulating them and maneuvering them to where I want. So I'm going to see if I can do that. Back behind those peas, I have another zucchini here that's doing pretty well. It's a lot bigger than last week. Some garlic that's ready to come out, more peppers, and a couple sunflowers, and then just more peppers and garlic, and there's a little marigold on the end there. And on the last little part of the garden, this is a lime tree that we put in. We had it growing in a pot. It's much happier not being in a pot. This is a gala apple tree that we bought and planted here, and it's doing fairly okay. It kind of had a rough winter because as soon as we planted it, we had crazy rains, which kind of flooded the bottom of it. So you can see here at the top of it, the leaves don't look great, but overall it's still doing okay. This is a second in-ground tomato trellis that we put up. These are all Roma tomatoes, and they're doing really well. There's a little basil back here that I'm hoping the birds don't find, because it's one of the few basils out of all of the basil plants that I planted in this garden. It's one of the few we still have, which is pretty crazy to me because I planted a lot. And all of these are doing really well. I cleaned up the bottoms of these, which are in that tomato trellising video. That'll come out pretty soon. Over on the end of it here, this is a Honeycrisp apple that did come with the house, but we moved it over here. It was over on the other side, closer to the other Honeycrisp apple. And it's it's really lovely. I intentionally didn't plant a tomato right in front of it because I didn't want to block the sun, but we put a little borage underneath here that is going to be flowering really soon. And we've seen that bees love these, pollinators love these, so we're excited to have more of those and more perennial things back here. But this is the first time we've ever grown this, so we just got one for now just to see how it does. And then over here, I put another Howden pumpkin so that it can hopefully come up and sprawl wherever it wants to back here in the wood chips. And then this last little bit of the perennial garden. So back here we have blueberry bushes. So these are something. We have no idea what they are. They're pretty. We're leaving them until they're in the way. But we put in our blueberries that we brought with us from our old house, and they're all doing really well. We have 7 blueberry plants back here. Here's another one. And then here's another, and a puppy. And this is the second Honeycrisp apple tree that came with the house. And this one we didn't move. It's been here the whole time. So that marks the 10th week of our spring garden tour and the 1-year anniversary of us living in this house. We've absolutely loved it. It's been amazing. And I'm so happy that we have been able to build this garden and have it up to, where we got it in the last couple years. With last year we built, I want to say 4 or 5 beds, the far 3 16-foot beds and then 2 of the 8-foot beds. We built those the weekend after we moved in. It was kind of a wild ride. And it was just a rush to get some sort of garden in so that we could put the plants that I had in that were just in pots way too long. And then this year, just building out the rest of these beds, getting all the wood chips in, all of that kind of stuff has been really great to have this space starting to look like how we've envisioned it for so long. And now we feel like we have, the main infrastructure in. And so now it's just adding things and really making it beautiful and lush. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm excited to look back next year and see, all the different changes that we've made in a year since then. So that's going to be really wild. So thank you for joining me on this tour today. I hope things are growing well in your garden. Let me know. I would love to hear all about it. I always say this, but even if you're just growing like a flower in a pot, that's where we started, and I would love to hear about it. So I hope you have a good day. I hope you had a good long weekend, and take care. I'll talk to you later.